hit the starting soon. All right, I will be right back. I'm gonna go put some coffee on,
Mhm.
and then I'm gonna give you a call right now. And get this going here in just like a few minutes.
Yep. But...
Okay, be right back.
Right. Make it bigger. My day 2-1. Jeez.
Okay.
I'm assuming you haven't really looked through this day 2 one yet.
Uh, too much yet. A little bit. I went through it, so I've got some idea of some things I want to go over with you here.
Okay.
There Yeah. So before we go over it entirely, this is from Scrim 2, with your team and Get Good. So
Mhm.
we're starting with the King's Row map here. You have some specific things that you want me to kind of like focus in on during the VOD, or would you rather me just kind of just take a look at it with you? What's your thoughts?
Um, uh, Mostly I'm kind of like worried about my positioning right now. Mirzin actually wasn't here today, and we also lost our projectile DPS this day, so we had 2 subs. Uh, so my concern is that Mirzin was a very aggressive tank, and I'm kind of a very far back Anna. So
Oh,
sometimes I was LOSing him a lot, so I was just worried about my positioning. I had a couple people tell me that I don't use my scope enough, so I've been trying to work on that a little bit, which will
okay.
probably show up.
Um, when people say like you don't use your scope enough, what does that mean exactly? Did they explain that more? Because
Just I use my left click like so much more than my right click or quick scoping or anything like that because I went from Zen to Anna, so I feel like I'm used to that, like the projectile
yeah.
speed. But I understand
So
why scoping is also a good thing for Anna.
scoping is good and bad, right? So let's kind of talk about the pros and cons of that before we get into it too much. So the heals per second when you're fully scoped in compared to when you're scoped out, are you familiar with what it is?
Not by numbers now.
So they're the exact same,
Hmm.
actually. So whether you're scoped in or you're unscoped and just firing hip fire, the heals per second are exactly the same. Quick scoping, for instance, though, is where you get fewer heals per second because you're having to constantly unscope the quick scope and the quick scope and then unscope. So
Yeah.
the heals per second are slower, but obviously it turns into a hit scan at that point, so it's certainly more beneficial. Especially like when I think about quick scoping, I think about trying to get a shot on somebody who's pretty far away and I need to get it on them like now, you know?
Hmm.
Like it's really important. As for like hard scoping, so what would you say like the benefits and the kind of not so good things are when you're hard scoped in on somebody.
Well, obviously, the con is like your field of vision is not there, and you can't tell what's around you. The benefit I usually use it is when there's a long sight map and I have cover and I can just hide back there and just
Hmm.
quick scope in. So I don't remember if Lunar Horizon was in this one, but like at one point I got picked off early, so when I came back I just hard scoped from mid to the point so that like I could stay there and heal while my team was still doing fine. So like those points, yeah, obviously like hard scoping's fine, but
So the way I like to kind of think about it is like, let's imagine this is like you here, all right? So you're Ann, and like let's say your team is all kind of here, and let's say this is like King's Row, right? So let's say you're playing Archway, which I don't think you played Archway in this VOD, but like let's imagine this is kind of like King's Row, right? Kind of playing the Archway. Your team's playing around that corner a bit, right?
Mhm.
Um, not to scale, clearly. Um, but the idea I'm kind of trying to bring up here with it is like when is the right time and when is like the wrong time to hard scope in. So what do you think about when is the right and wrong time to hard scope?
um I say hard scoping is fine like the beginning of the match, but once they kind of push in to the point, then that's probably not a good time.
So a general rule I like to use is when I know for a fact that I have the entire fight in front of me
Mhm.
and the enemy is scouted. So if I know the enemy is right here, right? And I know for a fact that my whole entire team is right here, right? Then hard scoping in isn't like the worst thing in the world then, right? Because I know I'm going to get my heals into them really quick when they need them. However, like if somebody comes through here, my field of view isn't going to be totally messed up so much with Anna, depending on how I'm holding. Like if I'm holding more towards like the left side here or the right side, that's going to limit, either this side or it's going to like limit this side right here, right? So just things you want to kind of like keep in mind a bit. Something that we'll focus in on for sure. Now, when it comes to like general positioning tips here, when you're positioning with Anna, what are like some of the things that are going through your mind a bit?
Um, Mostly like where my team is situated. I know the first time I scrimed with them, I was at Arches, and they were kind of near the point on that corner. And then the next time, they kind of held a little bit backwards, so I went up to high ground instead that time to try and stay out of the fight a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So usually it's basically like how far away I'm from the tanks, and if I have line of sight of them, is where I kind of see myself.
Okay, gotcha. So let's take a look at a few things here with Anna and Kings Row, right? And I like going over these things before we kind of get into the actual VOD because I feel like they help a bit for us to kind of like understand where we want to be and how we want to rotate. So you guys are running like basically a bunker comp, but you're running it with a Reinhardt. So you have a soldier also on your comp. So let's go ahead and bring this comp out a bit. And you ended up starting here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And your soldier started up here, and your Junkrat was holding. Well, he put a trap here, but then he rotated over to hotel. And then we have our Reinhardt and our Zarya, and they're holding mostly up in this kind of like area, right? So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yes. And then you have a Zen, and if I'm not mistaken, I think your Zen was holding back in Arches. So you guys are pretty split right now as a team, right?
Hmm.
Now when you look at kind of like your setup here, what's kind of like going through your mind?
Uh,
Where would you wanna set up? And I'll bring out the call outs here because they do actually help out quite a bit. So let's show these call outs. So you started clock and then you rotated over towards platform here on halls.
yeah.
So what are you thinking?
Well, I like just watched a bunch of like CarQ videos and stuff, so I saw a cheeky way to do an animate on this one, so I was gonna try and
Yeah.
do a quick
So I
nade
want
out
to
of
point out,
it.
you can do that same nade from here,
Can I?
and you can actually make it land right here in mid, which has more value.
Okay.
So if you think about it, like if you nade them here, You just given away like what, a 12-second cooldown or something like that? Maybe it's 10-second
It's 10
cooldown.
seconds, yeah.
Yeah, so a 10-second cooldown, and it's gonna take them. It takes them about 8 seconds, right, to kind of like get in here, as opposed to like just throwing the nade up and trying to get it to land on mid, so
Hmm.
that as they're pushing it, it essentially stops their push like right then and there. So something to kind of think about. You'd have to just like practice it from here. Like there's an angle you can
Yeah.
throw it at from here to land right in mid at that time. So um, okay, all right. So you try to do the cheeky thing. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. What are we thinking next though? And let's kind of like we're like role playing this right now. All right.
Hmm.
So where do you think the enemy team's gonna move through? What is your thought here?
Usually I always think they go through hotel, usually.
So either mid or through hotel,
Yeah.
right? One of these two spots. Okay. So you're positioned here, right? And there's some good and some bads about being positioned in this area here. What's one of the good parts about being positioned here?
Uh, that I have like a top view so I can get some nice antes out and pretty good sight lines of the point at least.
Okay, gotcha. So we're thinking like if they come through hotel, you can land some really fat nades. If they're playing in this area here, you can position here and you're in sight lines the entire time. And to a certain extent, right, you're limiting sight lines for for the snipers on their team, right? So they do play Hanzo. The Hanzo on their team, I think he actually ends up playing with his team a bit, which is good. He ends up coming through mid, and I think he ends up taking like a flank route. So, because he comes up on your left, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think he actually ends up going this direction and then playing these sight lines here.
Mhm.
So, okay. So we're thinking we're gonna play here still. What are some other things you want to kind of like keep in mind? Like, who are the people that are going to be helping you here?
I think it was mainly soldier we said that was gonna help keep high ground safe.
Okay, gotcha. So
Um,
you ended up getting forced out
yeah,
clock here, right? So I think it was Hanzo comes up through this way on you, and you end up dropping down, right?
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So what do we think we could have done differently here? Just let's think about it for a moment here. Like, why do you think you were forced down as opposed to like if you had already been holding with like soldier, right?
Yeah, I think at the time I was kind of more focused on the tanks. I don't remember what point of the fight it was, but I was worried about the healing, so I jumped down instead of breaking like a line of sight for the 3 or 4 seconds it takes to rotate.
Okay, gotcha. So you were worried that they weren't going to get heals, right?
Hmm.
And you ended up instead of going here, you ended up going down this way. Um, which is not like the worst thing in the world. You're playing with the tanks then at that point. Um, okay, gotcha. Zen though still right, kind of like he's not in a bad spot, right? He's controlling hotel with Junkrat to a certain extent. When you guys have a Junkrat, this area here in Arches is actually very safe.
Hmm.
So you know what I mean? Like it's unlikely that they're gonna want to come through hotel without a diva. When you guys are just spamming in there. So again, holding arch is relatively safe. You could even hold up here then at that point, which is again, this is going to be a relatively safe spot because if they do pressure you here, like let's say there's a Hanzo or something, you can always drop down here and then force back through arches with your Zenyatta, and then you're playing with your team. And then if you guys win the team fight, you can always rotate back up through. So um, either way, like
Definitely.
this position is not a bad position. So um, but the decisions we have to make have to be like really, really perfect,
Yeah.
and they have to be like really, really quick. So let's take a look here at the VOD
I make some
and
unsavory
let's see kind of
decisions.
like the decision making process we have and how we come about those answers. But I do like the thought process though that you want to get aggressive with your nades. I think that's right. Um, and obviously, if we can land the perfect nade and hit both our team and the enemy team, that's what we want to do.
Hmm.
So I think the enemy team does also have a diva, so that's something you have to like really watch out for because diva is one of your hardest counters. So yeah. Alright, so they eat the grenade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't get anything from it.
So they have a Pharah also. So your aim is fine here. That's unlucky right there. That's like really unlucky with your sleep. I saw what you're trying to do. So press is in like a really bad spot. Oh, they have Genji actually, is what they have.
Press. Yeah, or was it orange juice? I think is the Reinhardt.
So their Genji takes out your soldier. So we're worried that up there is going to be pretty dangerous. Okay. All right. So the one thing I want to point out here, even though like there's a Genji up here and everything like that, like you're positioning yourself in an area where like if the enemy team decides to group up and push on you quickly, they can get in on you and split you from your team.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're here already, you know what I mean? And you ended up spending like too much time here because you're so worried about the Genji up top, you know? Like a Genji that comes after like a Zen and an Ana should be a dead Genji. So I wouldn't be worrying about them so much. And what ends up happening is you're kind of like, because you're worried, you ended up getting split from your team because Orange and Legend have to play this area here.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys end up getting split because you have to go back this way now because heading this way is not safe anymore. So let's see here. And they're on Pharah, so yeah. I mean, if anything there, like what do you think you would want to do instead? Like if we can kind of like go back on this a bit. We're here now. Soldier's dead. What should we be doing, you think?
I probably should have been stacking with the Zen so that we could cover each other.
I think that's probably not a bad idea. You know, they do have a Pharah here, so playing in the open space is pretty dangerous. If he puts a Discord on there, you get a shot in or two, the Pharah is going to back off. And I don't think they have a mercy, so I think that's probably the best bet. Yeah. So where's Genji likely going to be coming from?
Behind arches.
So maybe from this direction here. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, so we know Genji's going to be coming from here. We can kind of go back that direction, scout out a bit, but still keep kind of eyes on our front line. And you have Soldier that's coming from alley already, right? Like he's coming from the streets back through here to kind of like protect you guys. So I think you're okay. You know, it'd be a 3v1, and that Genji would be a little silly to take that. Unless he's like God tier. So someone says something about like diving supports, but they're not even on like a Winston or anything, so I don't know what that's about. Alright, so Genji's on Zen. Zen dies because of Genji, and you were nowhere near him, so yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so you guys are probably going to have to give this up here. I don't know about that sleep right there. You'll get it back in time, so it's fine, I guess. So I think with your guys' comp, if you're going to run... If you're going to run the, like, what you guys are running right now, who's your main target you're thinking for Nano? Like, let's go over kind of like your comp and how you synergize with them.
Usually I nano either Reinhardt or Zarya. I usually look at what their alts are as well. So like if one of them alts, I'll try and nano the other so they get small charge.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Who else?
Sometimes maybe the Zen. I don't think I ever do nano the Zen, but I know the fact of if they're getting a hard push that you can nano a Zen or Mercy to try and keep them up for a little bit longer in the fight.
100%. Like Zen is like super stupid scary when he's nanoed. So, if he's getting dove on by the Genji, I think nanoing the Zen is not a bad call ever. I would do that. 100%. Sorry, I need to get my coffee here in a second, but 100%, I would do that. If you think about it, right? Like if you nano your Zen, they don't have to use their trance, you know, and then
Mhm.
you save that trance for another push, and it's likely that you end up turning the fight around because of the nano Zen. Like his damage is just like stupid high when you nano him. He goes from like 46 damage in orb or whatever it is up to like 68 or something, you know, so or 69 damage per orb. Hey, it's just like stupid strong. Like he can basically two shot like anybody at that point. Like close to two shotting like a flanker, like a Genji, especially if he lands like one headshot and then it's just a body shot and they're dead. So
Mhm.
yeah, super useful. Especially like you want to play with your Zen right now. Your Zen's on high ground here. They are running the Pharah and they're running the Genji. So I think where he's positioned right now, I think it's good. Actually, I think it's okay right now because they don't really have like any long range contest for him. So playing up high ground there is probably not a bad idea. And if their Pharah comes in through here, you don't have to necessarily worry about it so much. You can always just drop down if you need to. So they're trying to get in a lot of value right now based on the enemy comp, and I think it's okay. So.
But would it be okay to like stack all of us up there? Because like, well, I mean, Junkrat just jumped down, but Soldier's up there as well, so four of us are on that ledge.
I think initially it's fine. Like as you're kind of coming through to see where they're positioned, it's okay. The splash damage is like it legit is super low right now, so I wouldn't worry about it too much like you would have had to in the past with Farah. But if you think about it, right, like Farah can only shoot you from two spots, right? She can only shoot you from here, and if she's positioned here, she has to shoot rockets in a direction that means that they're not going to splash on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just something to kind of keep in mind. Like you guys can essentially nullify her completely up here because you guys are running Soldier, Anna, and you're running with a Zenyatta, right? So as long as you guys are positioned up there, she can do absolutely nothing from you or nothing to you from window because you guys have that lockdown completely. And if she's positioned here in arches, like again, like her rockets are going to come in, but you guys should be able to dodge those without like so much trouble. And they're not going to be able to like do any real splash damage because again, you know, she's not hitting the ground below you. She can hit maybe like the walls to the side, but that's like sidestep it a bit, you're fine. So yeah, I think holding the high ground like really limits the way like Farah can get in. The only other option that Farah has then is to play like the high ground up here, which means she has to come in this direction, right? Or she has to like deke out here really quickly and then play high ground up here. So, but again, you guys, because of your comp, you're forcing her to play like very, very passive, you know? Like she can do very little to you guys at this point. Um, all right, so what was the use for the grenade right there? I know we're like pushing in and everything like that, but like why throw the grenade like that? What were you trying to achieve? I guess I should probably say. Because like I know you're trying to land like a fat nade and everything, but like throwing it in the way that you did.
I was probably just trying to lob it over the shield, but he backed up slightly to.
Okay, gotcha. So how could we have maybe done that a little bit differently to got more or to like maybe guarantee or like increase the chances that we get a lot of value out of our nade?
I probably should have hold on to it for a bit more, well, until my team actually pushed in, rather than doing it right as they pushed in.
Okay. All right. So maybe waiting a little bit. Waiting a little bit is not a bad call. Let's take a look at some abilities from their team, right? So what else do we want to bait out from them a bit? What do we think? Like, what's one of the, like the big counters to our nade if we're going up against like Ryan Zarya, other than the shield?
Zarya's bubbles.
Yeah, right. So let's kind of let's pay attention on this next push here. Let's watch here and see if they use bubble. So what bubble did they just use?
Projectile, and I think she just used self as well.
Okay, so we know two bubbles are gone right now. What's the cooldown for those bubbles?
I actually don't know the time.
8 seconds. 8 seconds. So we're at 431, right? So we should know then at like around 423 or so, they're gonna have bubble back, right? So we're not pushing right now, right? We're not really pushing.
Mm-hmm.
So she's gonna have bubble back now. We used bubble. They didn't use bubble at all. Now we're nanoing and we don't have nade to follow up with, right?
Mhm.
So what ended up happening kind of like there with that particular fight, right? Is a little bit all over the place, right? So we ended up using our bubbles when we're not engaging. We end up using our nade when we're not engaging. We end up um, nanoing them when they're disengaging as a team entirely, right?
Yeah.
So you think about it, right? We don't want to necessarily use nano as a chase tool as much as we want to use a nano tool as a tool where like we're already engaged and we're trying to turn the fight into our favor. So it's not happening here, but that's okay. That's like the big thing I notice here. Now, regarding your nade on the Reinhardt, like the one thing we could have done maybe a little bit differently here is as we push through a bit, for you to position on the right side here, and then look to land a nade somewhere on the top of the arches,
Mhm.
right above the Reinhardt shield, so that you don't have to like necessarily worry about him blocking it. Right, you just throw it like right above him. You hit the top of the arches, and he gets purpled, and then it's like GG easy clap. You know, like feels bad for them. Can't do
Is
anything
the if I put it like, let's say, right on the top of the arch, like in the directly in the
here.
middle, is that too high for them to
Too
get
high.
hit? Yeah.
Yeah, it's too high. It's got a 4 meter range on it to
Mhm.
kind of give you an idea. So I'm trying to think about like what other abilities have like a 4 meter range to kind of picture that. Like basically you'd have to land the nade because he's positioned like right behind the cart right now. You'd have to land the nade like here
Mhm.
to hit him. So somewhere in there, which is that's a difficult nade to land. Um, but it's more high value, or at least potentially easier to land than trying to time his shield going down and landing it as he's dropping his shield. Kind of like what we try to do with sleep sometime, you know.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to time his shield, but you just can't. But the one thing that I think like is really important and something you should try working on is just environmental nades. So landing them on the environment to do the actual what you want to do, as opposed to trying to like land them on the ground or like hit the person with them. Is just looking for objects around people to increase the chances that you land your nades. And then obviously just forcing out bubbles here. It's kind of hard to see whether or not they use them. I didn't see them using the bubbles at all. Um, but yeah, so like they can easily disengage right here though, which is why I was talking about the nano, right? Like they're positioned behind the cart. So they can easily go this way because you have a nanoed Reinhardt, and now they bring us into an area where they have an edge, you know?
Yeah.
So keep watching. All right, so cement, I think it is. Maybe said they're gonna shatter here. So you tried sleeping Farah up there, I believe. All right, so Farah's in the air now. You're having to give them space. All right, so that's like, what did we use nade on right there?
It
Where
was
we did not have it. Did you throw it up there?
no. I slept her,
Oh, you did sleep her.
and then
Okay,
our soldier
cool.
woke her up.
Yeah, what did you use nade on here?
This.
Oh shit. Okay, gotcha. All right, that's on. All right, so what was the reasoning behind the nade here?
Well, they were grouped up in three, and then as soon as I used the nade, they slightly spread out, so it wasn't helpful.
I guess the one thing I want to kind of like focus in on here is whether or not your guys were really in, you know,
Yeah.
because a lot of times we end up throwing out nades when we really don't need them. And like your guys are good. Like her shield, she still has shield. He still has armor. He's like taking like very little damage, right? And you have a Zenyatta here, so I think,
Ooh, that's
yeah,
like
I don't think we
7.
need it. Like if you look at where the enemy team is, right? They're all right here, right? They're behind the payload, so we're disengaging right now with very little like. There's not a lot of pressure that's on us here, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think being a little bit less liberal with your nades here would be important. Because I mean, obviously, if you nade the Zen, while they're tranced in the grav, I mean, you can heal through like anything. So
Yeah.
that's like 450 health per second that Zen's doing then. So with the nade, Okay. So yeah, don't get a lot of value from it. That's okay. All right. That's unlucky. That's
Yeah.
so unlucky. All right, I see what you're trying to go with there. That was awesome. Like you said, you know, you knew they were gonna have barrage. So you saw the grab, you held on to it, and you tried to get it the big sleep. So yeah, that was a good play. It's a good play. It's just unfortunate. So so your soldier said he's taking high ground. That's fine. You're reloading a lot, which is good. You're keeping it so you've got a full magazine. Yeah, your ammo management is really good. So I like seeing that. The one thing I'm not seeing from you so much right now, though, is kind of like checking your flanks a bit more. Like other than that, though, you're doing fine. Like you're doing really, really well here. So your aim seems good. Obviously, as a Zen player, that makes sense. Um, I don't have too much here. Just like maybe like every once in a while, like especially when you're in situations like this, like just checking this direction a bit more
Mhm.
or checking behind you a bit more, just so you have a little bit more awareness of what's going on. Because right now, like you're so hard focused on like your front line that like God forbid like anything came from you from like this area over here, up here even a bit. Like you slept a pharaoh, which was disgusting. Like it was such a nice sleep. And then like imagine if someone coming from behind you. Like I just guess I want you to kind of like check corners a bit more, recognize what's around you a bit more.
Okay.
Um, it's nothing like major right now. Like you're looking good. So like you're looking like a better Anna than what your SR would say, in my mind. So all right. Not sure about the sleep there.
Yeah, I don't know. Can't answer that
Yeah.
one.
We know what the better choice would have been, which is wait for the Genji to actually come towards you and then try sleeping. So yeah, feels bad. The nade, like you ran away from your Zenyatta here a bit. I don't know why. I think you need to trust your team a bit more. Maybe that's it. Like you don't trust them yet, which is why you ran away from your Zenyatta. And I also want to say like we have not been hitting tab screen very much at all. So like we have no idea like the alt charges on any of the people on our team right now.
Mhm.
So I think awareness right now, right? So checking your corners more, hitting tab screen like all the time when there's downtime or when there's a bit of downtime. Like in between fights, you should be hitting tab screen all the time. Like because right now we don't know if they've swapped comps, we don't know if they've swapped anything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's a lot harder for us to kind of like track what ultimates are coming if we're not hitting tab screen also, right?
Yeah, like I should
So
have known the Zen had ult, and I would have hugged him.
yeah, exactly, right? So I think awareness right now, and then you could have like naded yourself with your Zenyatta, and it would have been you probably would have lived through it, maybe. I mean, the burst damage from Dash Blade is pretty fucking high. You probably would have died anyway, but still, you would have been in a better position probably to get that sleep then. So it's unfortunate. Nano Blade is so stupid strong though. Holy shit. All right, so what do we got here? All right, so Press is close to his. Legends close to his. We probably get Grav here. I don't. Grav Tire's pretty good against their comp right now, so that would be. Just use that. Juice has his. Okay. You guys have some pretty good ultimates coming up. Your ult economy is pretty good. They didn't use sound barrier there. They didn't use barrage. They probably have barrage, and that Genji popped off, so he's probably like 25% to his next ultimate already, because he like farmed cement or whatever, or whoever your Zarya player is there. So all right, good check, good check. You're looking for the barrage right now, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
heard something up there too. Yeah.
All right, so low value nade, low value sleep right there.
Yeah.
if you get caught with, I like to say like with Anna, this is like getting caught with your pants down, which is throwing out both of your abilities so that they're on the exact same cooldown.
Hmm.
All right. So think about ways in which we can kind of like stagger these. So if I throw a sleep up there and it's not effective, but then I am likely going to have to throw a grenade also, like sometime within the next like few seconds, I've put myself in a situation where I'm like SOL if they come after, right? Like if Genji comes after me right now, like I'm in a really bad spot, right? I have no nade, I have no sleep, and hopefully like my team can peel for me, right?
Yeah.
But the sleep up here, like you got the one on the Pharaoh, which was nice, right? But like it's still
It's
ultimately what was the value of your sleep on that Pharaoh? Like it was really cool, right? Like fucking Reddit sleep, right? But like was there a lot of value from the sleep?
other than taking her a few seconds out of the fight, not really.
Yeah, right. So this is something to kind of like think about. Like, what's the value of the sleep if I get it in here? Like, maybe it opens up an opportunity for us to get aggressive, possibly. But then the Genji just comes down. They go back just a little bit, and then they push right back in, right?
Mm.
So, um, it buys us some time. It doesn't really do much else other than though. So thinking about how we can get more like high value sleeps as opposed to just like landing sleeps on people for the hell of landing sleeps on people, you know? So landing asleep like mid fight would be way better, right? So this is good. Yeah, excellent. You guys just like sustained a shit ton of damage because you had your nade. You nanoed Reinhardt at the correct time. Press playing a little aggressive here.
I do that a lot.
Yeah, I can tell. Throwing nades and just hitting people in the back of their head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do they have shatter right now?
They just use.
The enemy team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say so.
Oh, nice. Nice nade. So
Good
you're
to
fine
know.
right now. Yeah, no big issues here. Positioning's fine. Going back for the mega. It's good. You could have asked your Zenyatta for an orb and given him charge though, so keep that in mind.
Mhm. See, like this is kind of like the parts where I'll hard scope because I'm in a
Yeah.
relatively
So
safe position.
we need to be rotating. All right, so you guys are gonna do the McCree ult here. I don't know. It would have been like super dangerous to do it, but you could have like gone up here and tried to like sleep the Reinhardt. Actually,
Mm.
it would like you guys would have had to push forward further though. So you guys are playing somewhat passive right here, right? Like you're giving them all this space through the choke. You guys could have played further forward, and then you had access to this area here, and then as the Reinhardt's coming through, you could have potentially slept him. I mean, it would have been really dangerous, but it would have been kind of cool to do it. So it's an option. Yeah, you're fine right now. Scoped in, it's fine. No issues here. I think you could be maybe a little bit further up on the left side right now.
Mhm.
Like I know a lot of people don't like holding left side, but they don't really have anything to like pressure you there, and you can have better sight lines of like what's going on into the fight there if you just hold left like here, and you still have sight line on your team. So like as Anna, I like knowing what's going on in front of me as opposed to like playing the blind corners and just shooting forward, especially when they don't have like a sniper on the enemy team. You can do that a little bit more. You can play more aggressive, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like you could certainly play more aggressive right now with your positioning. All right. So tiny little thing here. We know the enemy team has shatter, and you're playing within the Reinhardt's shatter range.
Mhm.
Big. Massive sleep on that Reinhardt. Excellent. Yeah. Fine. Fine. Finished it off with just one ult there, which is good. Nice flick. You would have got her if she didn't die instantly, so awesome. Yeah, your aim is good. So that's nice to see. Don't have to necessarily work on mechanics as much, so that's good.
That's a huge nade though. Unlucky they've got all those alts that they just put into you guys. So mm, I don't think there's really much you could have done there. Maybe play a little bit further back there,
Mhm.
if anything. Just because you know they're gonna grab. Like they've been holding on to it for like a day and a half. So massive, massive, great job. So you have nano already, which is awesome. I want to say I think my critique of you on the first scrim was actually that I had asked you to use your nano a bit more, right?
Yeah. Well, I also notice I don't use it enough. Like I've held it for 2 or 3 fights, so.
Yeah, the one thing I'm noticing is like there was certainly a significant change with you on this map where like you were nanoing just about every other fight. And I really really like seeing that. Like obviously there was just that one nano where we could have probably gotten a little bit more value out of it, and it was just like the timing of it. Like I like the idea that you wanted to use nano. It was just like where the enemy was positioned and where you guys were. It was just not advantageous to use it at that point,
Mhm.
especially because you guys don't have a Lucio. So when you don't have a Lucio, you can't necessarily like preemptively pop it because you can't follow up on it as easily, right? So as opposed to like if you do have a Lucio, you can dictate the pace of the engagement and like the tempo of your team's play at that point. And you could say, I'm gonna speed us in with nano, and then it's just like boom, like get in there on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, but other than that, I really like the way that you were playing your Ana here. So you're playing with the team when you need to. You're playing far back when you have to. Again, you could be a little bit more aggressive with your positioning because like we wanna land fat nades during the actual like engagements and whatnot. And because you're playing like the blind corners a bit too much, we have to play a bit more passive essentially because of it. So let's see. Are you on Zen on this round?
I'm pretty sure I play Anna again with our comp.
Okay, cool.
Our comp really likes Ryan Zarya, so.
That's fine. No biggie, right? This is an Overwatch league. If you want to play Ryan Zarya, go with it. So,
Yeah.
but we have a very I like your guys' comp here. It's not bad. It's not very I guess like the word I would use is like selfish. It's like very selfish comp here because your Ryan and Zarya are gonna be like left out to dry quite a bit. So yeah, like if they're playing like a spam heavy comp, or if they're playing like not even like a spam heavy comp, but like just like a tank heavy comp, like your Ryan Zarya is going to get dicked on really hard because you don't have Brigitte for protection. You don't have like the D.Va to reduce spam damage coming in. So um,
Yeah.
you guys have to let your Genji get into position, and you have to like make space for your Widow then so that she can get in. That would be kind of fucked on too much. So let's see. Are you guys going to run Sombra instead then? Oh, he's scouting. Okay. So they have Hanzo Mei, is what Press just said. So they're gonna try to wall you guys. What the?
Yeah.
All right, man. Free push. All right. I don't really like this positioning here from you. Like I get the positioning. I prefer Anna to position the same way Zen does on this point. So I'm gonna bring up Step and Anna real quick here. And the position has to be like really, really quick. So as you push through on Anna here, heal, 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 heal. Basically, kind of like that rotating around statue. Their Mei was here, so moving here was fine. But then I want to see you reposition back through here.
Okay.
And why would we want that?
Better sight lines.
Better sight lines. We also, and this is important, if you don't really recognize how easily this can happen, you protect yourself from the flank through hotel by positioning. So, because a lot of times what will happen is if your team pressures really hard, they'll have somebody on their team who will just like, it doesn't matter who it is, it'll just be somebody, right? Who will always come through hotel and try flanking around on the backside as the Reinhardt and the Zarya get overextended and then get in damage on the back.
Okay.
So Just something to kind of keep in mind. So positioning here, we protect ourselves from that. And if they decide to come around this way on us, because we're positioned like in this area, we may see them even coming through hotel and recognize that danger, and we can move over to taxi cab
Okay.
if we need to. But again, we keep the fight in front of us, and if we need to, we can always rotate a little bit more this way as Ryan and Zarya are pushing this direction, and we can land nades from this angle. So, as opposed to having to throw it over our Reinhardt and our Zarya and landing it over their shield and their defense matrix or whatever it is, you know. So it's more of an aggressive angle when we play here as opposed to playing here, where the only thing we can literally do is just heal Ryan and Zarya, as opposed to here where we can do the rest of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, like right now we don't have a lot of control over the match here. You're getting extended, it's fine. It's fine. You guys are pushing them now. Nice sleep. Great sleep. Unfortunate.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
So the way to like make sure that doesn't happen is again to like land nades on the
Environment.
yeah, on the environment, right?
Mhm.
So also try reloading before you have oh great sleep. Try reloading before you have 0 shots left and you're forced to reload. Okay.
Okay.
So like if you have like 2 shots left, that's when I would reload unless you absolutely need to get like a heal in. Then it's fine. Because sometimes that'll happen. But just something to think about here.
Yeah, this positioning where I'm at, I didn't like once I sat in it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I knew I was split off, and I'm like, well.
Mm-hmm. Just hide. Just hide. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So you guys want an EMP grab here. But yeah, I think you're right. You were just split from your team. There's not much to really go over there. Just play behind them at that point, you know?
Yeah.
Like I like holding the aggressive angle there, but the rotation back to your team needs to be way quicker. Like as they're pushing through, I would be rotating through bar. So right now you're too far ahead also. Like you could have easily gotten punished right there.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what happened to you there. You saw the dragon coming through, and then it turned around and just was like, I don't want to see it. This isn't happening.
I think I got hacked at the same time, so I turned around.
Okay. I was just like, oh, I don't want to look at my death. Pippa, I'll take you out here in a bit. I'll take you out in a bit. Let me finish this up, okay? Your sleeps have been really good, though. Your nades, I think we could get way more value out of them, right? So, like, you end up, like, nading, like, one person as
Yeah.
opposed to, like, trying to play with, like, the aggressive nades, which is, like, what you want to do. All right. So, all right. This is actually a really good example. Right here. Let's go through this here. So you end up throwing a sleep dart out at her, and you end up throwing a grenade out at the same target, right?
Mhm.
Like, what's the value in doing this here? I mean, I guess I wanna go over this with you, right? So we miss. Wait, you didn't throw the sleep. All right, it was just the grenade though. Yeah, I don't know about that, right? She's just gonna translocate away. Like we know she's gonna translocate away.
I think it was
So
more the fact that I could try and stop her hack off. It's just easier to land it that way, but I understand that it's losing a lot of value doing it that way.
yeah. Nice. Okay. So we should be hitting tab screen again though.
Mhm.
Press EMP and win.
Yes. Sometimes I find our alt management isn't that great. Like one time we said, "Oh, we have all 6 alts," and then like we tried to coordinate which ones to put, and then all of them got popped.
Yeah. All right. So I'm kind of curious on your approach here. Like you seem to like get drawn into this fight a bit for some reason.
Yeah.
I think you just like bought it out here because press was saying EMP and win, and you're just like, oh, EMP win. All right. Yeah, like just chill. Like go with your team. No, just play with
Mhm.
them. Just play with them here. I like the aggressive angle, but like look how wide you went. You know, like you went like super wide with this angle here. Like you ended up here
Mhm.
as opposed to like just holding this angle and waiting for the EMP to go through and then walking around and nading them. Yeah, like I think you just kind of like forgot what you were doing. I don't know. What do you think was going on here?
I would just say I was getting ready for an aggressive push, and I don't know. I just don't play very aggressive ever.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit of adjustment for me, I guess.
So what would you have done differently here?
I probably would have stayed right here and shot down.
Okay. No, the other option here, I just want to say like your team is taking a weird angle here by going all the way around this way.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I always like to say is like a bad plan everyone does can sometimes work, but a good plan that only half the team does, right, is bound to fail.
Yeah.
So I think just sticking with them here is what you want to do. Especially because like they know you're here. They're putting a lot of spam damage into you. Like you could just wait here actually. Like you wait here and just pop over on the right side and heal your guys as they go through and then pop out on the left when it's
Mhm.
time. But you end up like mistiming your engagement here by deciding to go now when you have no shield and they have a Zen who's been like peppering you and they have like a Hanzo on their team who could kill you. Like they have so much spam damage, right, that can just like destroy you at this point. And you decide to like go out this way. Like
Yeah.
in front of the team, right? Yeah, we just don't get the value out of it. And then we don't have the sustain necessarily to keep the team up. So press is there, or not press, but chosen is there, which is nice. Unfortunate. So they grab dragon. All right, so you guys' call now is nano grab. All right, so you're like really turned around right now.
Yeah.
I think you're a bit flustered actually. Okay. So when you're feeling this, like, did you feel like you were flustered right here? Just like a little bit, like not sure what to do?
Yeah. I get to that point a couple times.
Okay. What do you usually do to kind of help with that? Because I mean, it happens a lot of Annas. I mean, the actions per minute you need with Anna are super high. You know, like all the things, like the focus you need. Like, there's so much stuff that goes into Anna, right? So, like, what is your kind of like thought process on like bringing it back to like the center? What do you think?
I usually just try and focus on one thing. Like at this point, like I'll forget what the other team is kind of up to, so I'll focus on my team only
Hmm.
and not really focus on what's around me. But I mean, it's not always helpful because by the time I'm all ready to go back in, I don't know what's going on at all still.
So I like to call this this is what I call a forced reset. One of the best ways to force a reset in what you're thinking and what you're doing is what do you think would like one of the best ways to do that would be? It's like it's super small.
Disengage.
Hit the tab screen.
Oh.
Just hit the tab screen. Like it seems like so silly and insignificant, but when you hit the tab screen, there's something it does where it like resets your thinking a bit and you recognize, oh, this is a team game. I have a team members here, and these are like the alts we have, and like it kind of
Mhm.
helps you think about like what we're actually doing, you know? So I think like when you're feeling flustered, when there's not like a fight going on right now, like there's not really a fight, you guys are in a poke phase. Like hit the tab screen for a second, look at what alts you guys have, see who's on fire on their team. You know, look at your healing, see how much healing you done. I don't know, you know, whatever it takes, right? But
Mhm.
like reset for a second just by hitting the tab screen. So you can kind of like reorient yourself to like where your team is alt economy wise and where you guys are push wise. Usually helps out quite a bit. So just like think about that next time you're like this in the match. Because your positioning is like all over the place right now because you feel like Sombra's everywhere.
Yeah.
No. Good nano. Good nano. Now we're resetting a bit. We want to fight. You can take a breath, right? Oh, wonderful sleep.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to let the Rhine die there. Let's walk through this whole fight again. Your aim is really good though, so it's good. So who's the Reinhardt right now? Is that Mirzen?
No, Mirzen wasn't here. It's probably Orange.
Okay, yeah. All
It's
right.
our flex.
Yeah, he needs to unbind shift.
Yeah, but both are Reinhardts too.
All right. You know what? That's unfortunate there. Winston bubble, Maywall. Yeah, that's okay. You guys won the map too, which is cool. So good for you guys. Big pick by Press. You guys are moving in on this. Press should take high ground. No bubble now. All right, so we know there's no bubble. Huge, massive, disgusting. Great nade. Nice try on the sleep there. Yeah, great work. Honestly, like you think out of all the people on the team, like you're probably playing the most solid right now from the support standpoint here. Chosen was doing well. I like the way Chosen positions himself. I think if anything, let's go over some like takeaways actually for you here, because I think that's going to be important that we get some takeaways here. What was your biggest takeaway from like watching your own play here? What do you think?
Not to use sleep and yeah, grenade at the same time, and then press tab more.
Okay, so increasing value from sleeps and nades, right? So those are the big ones right there. Increasing value from sleeps and nades. Positioning the team more. Looking for opportunities to get aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is enemy team comp like specific. So if they're running like double sniper, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to play aggressive angles, and you're going to get less value from it. I think is like the big thing. Quicker rotations. So your rotations tend to be a bit slow when it comes to like when you know you need to like reposition yourself. You're a bit slow on those. So like instead of like second guessing, because it looks like you kind of like second guess a bit when it comes to like your rotations and whether or not you should or shouldn't. And I think you could certainly do it a bit quicker. I guess is what I'm saying. Like on King's 1 defense, right? You could have like repositioned with your team much quicker. Your nano use was good, so you know this was good. Except that one time. So other than that, that's fine. That's no biggie, right? Good aim. Good use of scope. You didn't hard scope a lot, which is good. You kind of kept situational awareness a bit. On King's Row's second attack, when you got kind of stuck in that alleyway where the Sombra was, so I see this a lot with players where they'll like go out to that like right side when they're trying to escape, as opposed to just trying to escape back to the team where spawn is. So if we like look at it right, you went this direction as opposed to back through long here with your team. And there was an opportunity for you to go back with your team, and you just decided to like go this direction instead. So
Yeah, I was trying to hug the Zen a bit more that was going that direction as well. So that.
yeah.
But he went down mid while I went to alley.
Yeah. I mean, mid's fine. Like, just meet back up with the team then, right? So wherever it is that you can meet back up with the team, especially when they have like a Sombra and stuff like that, being all alone in this area in a dark alley as Xana's, we don't want grandma in a dark alley late at night, right? So one thing to kind of think about. All right, so let's see here. If there was anything like real major for you. Oh. Managing distance from Ryan with Nia Shatter. And yeah, hitting tab more. Saving. And this, I guess, goes with the sleeps and the nades, right? Like, you had sleep for the Alting Pharaoh, which was good. I would say do more 1v1 with Genjis / Tracers / Sombras. Like, if you got a buddy you can play with, who can just like play Genji, Tracer, or Sombra against you, and just like work on these specifically. So and playing with your Zen Soldier a bit more. So other than that, though, I really think you did fine. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, there were those few instances where, like I said, I thought you could take some more aggressive angles. But other than that, I mean, I don't think you had like any major issues with your play. I think you could kind of like help out with calls on your team a bit more. Like if you're reloading, for instance, like that's like a piece of information you should really let your Reinhardt know. So indicate reloads. And this is like when like the fight is happening, right? Like your Ryan might want to get aggressive, and like let's say your Ryan's like 3/4 health or something like that, and you have to reload. Just like letting your Ryan know at that point that you're reloading will be a second. Is important. Or saying like, hey, I have no nade, something like that. So Reinhardt knows again, he can't play as aggressive as he wants to. Just like letting them know about your cooldowns a bit more. And I think your callouts were pretty good. But I think you could help out with like miscellaneous calls a bit more. So like if Zarya doesn't have a bubble, you could call Zarya no bubble. All these like little kind of like miscellaneous calls that help out your team when it comes to dictating tempo of the fight. And a bit more on alt tracking as well. Like I think you could probably help out your team with alt tracking a bit. So especially being like a support player. Support players have like one of two jobs usually in a team. You're either going to be an alt tracker or you're going to be a shot caller. And if you're not doing either of those, then the only value you're adding to your team at that point is simply just your heals and your anti-nades. You know what I mean? So looking to become like a better team player. So which means I think this is huge. Like if you want to like continue to like climb and you want to like continue to be like a big team player, these are the things you're gonna want to work on, especially being in the Get Good tournament. Like you guys are going to be coming against teams who are like they have a bunch of players who are just good team players, you know?
Mhm.
And the thing that will set you guys apart is if you have somebody on your team who can alt track a bit and you have somebody who's consistently making miscellaneous calls that you guys need. So Zarya bubbles, defense matrix, all those different things. Anna doesn't have need, Genji doesn't have dash, Diva has no boosters. You know, little things like that will help you guys a ton
Mhm.
because it helps dictate also then at that point not only the pace of engagement but also like who you guys might even target call, right? If a diva uses boosters, has no boosters in the middle of the team, and you call that, it's likely diva's going to get melted. So looking for those opportunities a bit more, I think, very important. Um, let's see here. I think those are like the big things right now for you. With these ones being the big ones here. Yeah. The ones in yellow right now are the big ones for you, I think.
Mhm.
Everything else was more or less fine. So this is something you just have to like work on. And do you do a lot of Anna paintball at all?
No, I find I get a lot of anxiety doing those kind of things, so I try
Yeah.
and learn as much as I can from like comp or quick play and things like that. And
I
test
mean,
them out.
you can do that learning from comp and quick play. I like to think of Anna paintball as simply just something where I go to work on my mechanics only.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, your aim is pretty good. There were some times where like I think you should have been hitting some shots and you weren't. But they were like few and far between. But having your quick scope mechanic down on a map that isn't King's Row is really important. Like King's Row healing on Anna actually isn't very difficult because most of the people are like within range where you can just like no scope the whole time.
Mhm.
Um, as opposed to like let's say you're on a map like Blizzard World or you're on a map like Numbani, or you're on let's think about what other map would we want to be quick scoping a lot on? Potentially even Volskaya on certain parts. Like there's certain maps out there, right, where like we have to like access different mechanical skills. And King's Row is one of those maps where like the mechanical skill necessary to actually be effective is very low. Um so I think what we'll do next VOD review, which will probably like let's schedule like another VOD review in like a week or something.
Okay.
And I want to do it on a different map than what you're on now. So um we could even actually like look at this VOD again if we wanted to. So yeah. I guess like during the play though, did you have any like major questions about your own play that I was not able to address at all?
Uh, no. There was definitely points where I'm like I'm out of position or I should have
Hmm.
hit that shot. But, you know, like there's things that I like once I did them, I recognized that I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
Which
kind of obvious ones, right?
yeah.
I'd like to generally apply certain. So I have like general principles that I usually use when it comes to Ana positioning. So for instance, and we can actually bring up a different map. We'll bring up a different one here, and I'll explain kind of what I mean. Uh, Oasis. And this can be applied to basically like any hero you're actually playing. And we'll pick like a very kind of like circular map right now. So let's imagine that the enemy team is here and your team is here and everything is like very kind of cut across the middle, right? So I like to think of this as like the rotational kind of like I don't know, merry-go-round, right? So like if the enemy team starts positioning here and going this direction, we would want to rotate around this way, right?
Mhm.
And what this does is this kind of like changes the way that we like look at the map now. So if like we're positioned here now and the enemy team is positioned here, this line that we have drawn through here changes, right? So now this line is like this, right?
Mhm.
So what ends up happening is if we get too close to this line here by ourselves, keep this in mind. If we're individually too close to this line or too close to this line here, then it's possible that the enemy team can potentially punish us here and potentially punish us here, right? So we're essentially at that point positioned too close to our flank, and it is very like dangerous for us. So as Anna, I like to think about this as a constantly changing merry-go-round, where like if we position here now, and the enemy team is here, right? Again, the line changes, right? It looks a little messy, but the same principles apply, right? So thinking about how, like, if we see the enemy rotating just a little bit, that means we need to rotate ourselves this direction now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So on King's Row, for instance, we could have applied this actually in the same way. So and this is how you actually ended up getting caught out on this point. So you were positioned here. The enemy team is pushing in here, and your team is positioned here, right? So like it's kind of funny when you look at it this way because it makes a lot of sense now. So here is the line between your team, and you're positioned essentially right where you don't want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we would want to be positioned now at this point somewhere in here, but we don't want to be positioned here, right? Because what ends up happening is somebody flanks through here and we die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting when you apply this principle to like any map, because you really can apply it to just about any map as Anna or as Zenyatta in particular. The only difference is with Zenyatta, sometimes you want to be positioned on these flanks because flanking Zens you can get a lot of value from them. So Zen is not so much, but Anna is like the big one I like to think about. There's like two types of playstyles with Anna. There's the aggressive playstyle with Anna where you can play these flanks, and that's like the ML7 playstyle. And then you have like the Elk playstyle. And Elk and like Boombox and all the other kind of like Overwatch League Annas, where they play on this line, essentially, like on the opposite side. So if the enemy team's here, they're positioned here, and so on and so forth, right? Like they're there mainly to support their team as opposed to make the big plays.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the type of play style that you want to develop, and it seems like right now you'd like to play more of the support type of play style with Ana, and that's fine. But then you need to be way more cognizant of this line, and like when you've crossed over it into a spot where you can get punished.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when you were here, it was very punishing, and then you backed up here, right? And if we think about it, it's so funny looking at it, right? Your team's here, the enemy team's here, the line is now here, and you're positioned here, very close to the death line. I like to call it's like a death line, right? As opposed to being here. So your Zen was in the right spot, but the Zen couldn't get any peeling from you because you were in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
So make sense?
Yep. We'll see if
Alright.
I can figure that out while I'm playing.
I know the easiest way to kind of think about it is to basically play behind your team, right? Like that's the easiest way to think about this line, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes when you play behind your team, like, oh, I'm behind my team here, right? But then we have to know where the enemy team is and how close that we are to that line. And over time, you'll kind of like understand it. The reason I think of it as a line is because this line will constantly shift one way or the other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to rotate based on that. So this is the front line that our team is essentially holding, and we have to position ourselves in relation to that line because that line reflects where the enemy team is. So yeah, you'll get there. You're looking good though. Like you're looking really strong. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Like legit, you're looking really good.
Yeah, like this is my first time on a team in a scrim, so like I'm still kind of learning a lot of stuff. Like I definitely need to learn kind of positions and callouts for certain areas.
Yeah. I think like one thing you can do, it's important, is just like try to help out your team where you like that's the big thing. I think from the Get Good tournament, my opinion about it, because it's very similar to like the Scrub Cup, for instance. You're learning how to play the game in a team environment, which means that you guys should be learning to play like team-based comps and not like what we would call like selfish solo queue comps, where you just like play what you want to play and then you try synergizing with the team and playing with them.
Mm-hmm.
But playing comps that have like natural synergies and then you guys work together as a team. So like one of the things you can do with like your tank, right, is you can help your tank with his positioning a bit more by saying when he's like gone too far or out of your line of sight, which you do a bit, you do a bit. But you can also kind of control the tempo of the fight a bit, right? Like if you know that like your tank has like full health and the enemy team's tank is pretty weak, you can, suggest to push a bit more, and or let your Reinhardt know, hey, I'm pocketing you right now, things like that, which you do a bit. So, but doing it a bit more in a team environment is important. So,
Okay.
yeah. Other than that, though, any questions for me at this point, Sequoia?
I wouldn't say right now. Maybe like I'll message you later if I come up with something. But I'll
Okay.
kind of take these takeaways and work on those and see what we get from that.
Yeah, just get good, right? That's what they always say. So, nah, you're fine. So it sounds good. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will try my best to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I'm really busy, so I try my best to set aside time for you guys, but it's hard sometimes. So I will try my best to get back to you in a reasonable amount of time, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate this and
All right.
hopefully.
Well, you have yourself a nice day. And when's your guys' next scrim? I did want to know. Do you
It's
know?
tomorrow at 6 Eastern.
6 Eastern? Okay. I might be able to make that. If I'm not, if press can get like a top down or something like that, I think it would be really helpful to do like a overhead view, VOD review with you guys, at some point here soon. So,
Okay, I'll mention it.
all right, later. Have a nice day.
You too, thanks.
Thanks. Bye.